The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Soccer to the Max, as we are doing a sort of instant reaction, hot take, whatever you want to call this, of the U.S. men's national team Gold Cup quarterfinal win over El Salvador 2-0, and they now move on to face Costa Rica, who beat Panama thanks to an own goal in the semifinal on Saturday. We'll talk about the Costa Rica game and the other games from Thursday on the regular Soccer to the Max that will be available for you on the Friday morning on demand there. But right now we're just talking U.S. men's national team. Eric is here with me. How are you feeling about after this game?
Lucky. We got very, very lucky. Throughout the majority of the first half and at the beginning of the second half, our defense was in shambles. El Salvador had way too many opportunities to finish, especially up the middle. And it really wasn't until, I would say, about the 70th minute where we started to clamp down and see how to win. I was borderline panic mode at early points of the second half.
Yeah, it would have been very interesting to hear what Alexi Lawless would have had to say if the U.S. did not score those 2 goals before the halftime break there, because he was guaranteeing multiple goal win against El Salvador here. We could talk about the referee thing stuff a little later. I mean, that's obviously important, but that doesn't really assess the U.S.'s performance. Do you feel like anybody sort of stood out to you in this game positively?
I have to give credit. As much as I ragged on our defense, I like how Eric Lehigh really closed things down towards the end. He was the beneficiary of the second goal right before the half, and as things really became loose, he took it on his shoulder to almost act in a sweeper role to kind of close down once El Salvador was getting behind and going into the 18. So that was positive. And between him,
he also had the terrible gaff at the beginning.
He did.
And there was times where he was getting skinned alive as well on the flank there. So I just want to point that out, that while he did have the goal and he did have moments there when the U.S. was basically just trying to keep El Salvador from scoring again, or from scoring to make it a close one. I think in the large amount of time before it, before it got to that point, he hadn't played that well. None of the back line really did at all.
No, it was very discombobulated, very disjointed. So I have to say, that's why I have to give him some positives, because he was the main one, really the only one, to recover. And I have to say, this leads to a little bit of a dubious starting 11 that was out there today. I was questioning some of those decisions.
Yeah, I think certainly many people questioned a lot of those decisions. The decision to put Omar and Matt Hedges together is a bit weird to me, because Omar he has his own thing where he sometimes goes forward and he floats and doesn't always kind of go back to close down a guy. Yeah, he had the goal, which is important, right? But he's letting balls just kind of come into the box, and and then Matt Hedges is just getting beat by people. And he's getting turned, and Matt Hedges looks like he doesn't know what the heck he's doing out there half the time. I'm like, what is wrong with him? He's so much better than this for Dallas, and there's MLS teams that are better than El Salvador. Like, I don't understand this with him.
I mean, it was a little bit of not playing with the regular club. As you said it yourself, he's used to Dallas. He's used to being in that Dallas back line. There was very little chemistry in this U.S. lineup. That was a bit of a problem. And I think to a point, because we escaped winning the group on a tiebreaker, we were a little bit overconfident going into El Salvador, and we nearly paid for it.
I mean, the Bruce Arena and the U.S. said they were respecting them. They were trying to. They were not taking them lightly. I just feel like they probably expected El Salvador to kind of sit back, soak up some of the pressure, whatever. But El Salvador came out attacking them, and they seemed to kind of be a little bit uneasy about that. I do agree with you. I liked what Lehigh brings as far as going forward, tracking back, that kind of thing. I don't know that it was that much better than what Jozy does.
No.
But again, that's the thing, is you're moving guys around constantly. Like, I could see, because of the way the back line played, you could have Beasley Miazga playing in center in the next game against Costa Rica, because of how bad this game was. And just so many changes. And I liked what I saw from Justin Morrow too, especially going forward, which is what he does for Toronto. But going back, defending, he wasn't that great either.
No, and this is what I warned about for over-tinkering by Bruce Arena. Now, I can't entirely knock him or call him Juan Carlos Osorio yet, but you're getting to the point where now you're setting up to where you have to. You're getting awfully close.
We expected some of that, right? Because of all the the people you're bringing in and everything. But
yeah, I expected. You're absolutely right. You bring in Bradley, you bring in Dempsey, you bring in Altidore, you bring in Howard, you bring in all these guys. I get you're bringing them in to start, but even with the core team that's been there through the group stage, you want a little bit of cohesion, and for your 6 guys to bolster that. That didn't happen here. He didn't set it up for it here.
No, he didn't. But I think what he did get is, I think on the wings you got some good play. You got good play from Jozy Altidore, which he always works hard. But there's something about growing in confidence there with Bruce Arena, who knows him. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought on the other wing, which I can't remember who was the other guy. I'm remembering the other 3. I can't remember Arriola. I think Arriola plays is also a guy that's been heavily mentored by Bruce. I think he's getting better as the games go on here. At first, when you're first announcing his name, I wasn't a big fan of him, but I think he's grown through this tournament. And I can see why Bruce wants to play him. I think Bradley, he knows what he's doing there. He made some incredible runs to kind of save goals from happening in this game. I think Darlington Nagbe was actually decent as far as the center midfield role in taking balls away, making those challenges need to be made, and then trying to find the outlet. But it takes him away from doing what he normally does, which is get on the ball and start running past people.
Well, that's because he couldn't run past people, because as soon as he got the ball, you had 2-3 Salvadorians right nearby. And that was a constant theme throughout this match.
Well, but also, if he's not on the wing, it's a lot harder for him to do that.
True.
If you're making, let's say you have Jozy Altidore you put Jozy Altidore on the right and you put Nagby on the left, and Nagby's the one running at guys. I mean, he could have had that goal that got wrongfully called offside for Jozy Altidore. So
Yeah, he looked like he was onside to me, but again, this referee, oh dear God.
Yeah,
so much fail.
So much. It's just, and El Salvador again, like they looked good in that first half, and then the beginning of the second half they looked good too. You know, Zelaya, Bonilla, that combination was dangerous. Their wing play was also dangerous. They were beating the backs. You know, they were on the counter. They were dangerous. Our guys couldn't get back very much. You know, Howard had to make some big saves. Obviously, you know, the El Salvador keeper had to make some even bigger saves, but still, just that backline did not look too good. I think the others, you know, Dempsey didn't have a lot to do, but he looked good there. I thought, you know, Jozy was really frustrated because he kept getting fouled, obviously, and then the stuff in the second half was just ridiculous. Kept happening to him too, so you know I could totally understand that point. But and also Dempsey works better sort of behind Jozy, not right next to him. But
no, because Dempsey, once he gets the ball in from the midfield, he's the guy that loves to make supporting runs, like always trying to clean up second chances, and that timing, as you said, was a little bit off. And the fact that even Jozy helped him, like, bless his heart, I think he was the one that it looked like he got bit at some point. Which
no, he did get bit.
Yeah,
he got his nipple twisted.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's no excuse for that. I don't know how. No. If the referee, and which is what sucks, the referee has to actually put it in his report that he got bit or that he got the nipple twisted or whatever, because if they don't, then there's nothing CONCACAF can do if the referee doesn't put it in there, even though you can obviously tell from video footage that we all saw that this is what happened. But, you know, it's this stupid CONCACAFing at its finest here.
CONCACAF, and for everything that happened with VAR, this is why I never knocked it, simply because perfect example of where it would have been at its absolute best.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, where's VAR? This is one of those times you really need it. You could have got the goal allowed for Jozy Altidore. You know, just so many things could have happened, especially the Eric Lehigh foul where he leaves the leg in and like clips him hard. I mean, that could have been a red.
Shin. Yes, easily a red. It was just unbelievable, and that being able to throw their weight around and us having to throw our weight around, that's what completely got us off. Jozy couldn't get up front and muscle through into the box to try to create chances. It's just nothing. This was pathetic.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of that. Like, I get gamesmanship or whatever, but this is beyond gamesmanship. And I think it's sad because El Salvador was one of the actual, like, feel-good stories of this tournament, right? They were playing well. They were fun to watch. You know, they almost got through and could have faced Canada and had a better chance of advancing probably. But, you know, Jamaica ties it up and they wind up where they are now. They lost. But it's just, if you're having to resort to that kind of thing, you're really setting back your country as a soccer nation. And they had done so well to advance and show that they were better than that.
They really did, and not just setting back in this, and we've talked about it before, if the CONCACAF League of Nations does come to fruition, how is this going to come into play between the referee, between El Salvador's goon it up kind of style? You're setting yourself up for I can't completely say failure, but a lot of side-eye.
Yeah, I don't know about failure. I think it's, like you said, it's going to be more about, like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to do an entire League of Nations and you still got referees like this?
Mm-hmm.
In the Gold Cup that's afraid to make decisions, and he only makes decisions once the game is in hand. Like, that last 10 minutes, he starts handing out yellow cards. But what about before then? You know? And there were still guys that could have got a second yellow he chose not to do anything with.
You're setting yourself up for a very bad look as a confederation. El Salvador, as I was saying, they're setting up for now side-eye themselves because, alright, you're going to come in and play extra physical, this old school style. Well, we're going to do the same thing. Cards be damned.
Yeah, and then, like, when you go to these other countries for some of these games, like, how bad is it going to get? You know? You go to a Costa Rica, go to El Salvador, go to Honduras. I mean, imagine the referees that are going there and having to officiate these games.
Exactly. El Salvador, that's one of the two sites of the football war back in 1970. I rest my case.
There's just a lot to learn from here, from many sides, and now you look ahead, if you're the U.S., to a Costa Rica team that, I don't know what that was against Panama. It looked like neither one really wanted to do anything for a while. And
that was very lackluster. And yeah, you could factor in, it was 94 degrees at kickoff, which, wow.
Right.
Hashtag climate change. But
in Philly, where they were.
Yeah, so you can factor that in, but with a lot of that, it's just, did they not know that the match was going straight to penalties? Because, especially in that first half, it's like, well, we gotta just slug this out for 120 minutes. Let's conserve our energy and do it that way.
Well, because you don't want to go to penalties because all it takes is one miss and then Panama goes through. You know, you want to be able to get through on your own merit, and then they get through on a fluke own goal.
Yes.
By Anibal Godoy, of all things. Poor guy.
Yeah.
MLS player.
Yeah, an own goal, and then to add insult to injury, he picked up a yellow card after that. So it's like, oh, ow. I saw that, and the way that ball just bounced off of his head, I felt for him.
It almost looked like he was trying to score in his own net, though.
Well, that's
it's like, what are you doing?
That's what they said, and I'm sure the keeper was like, bro, what? What the?
What are you doing?
Oh.
But, I mean, it's the matchup that, most of us thought would happen. On the other side is where you get, Mexico. We thought Mexico would face El Salvador or Honduras, not Mexico against possibly Jamaica again or, Canada. So that's going to be a interesting semifinal, but we got the expected semifinal on the U.S. side. Yeah. And now, obviously, Costa Rica suffered some incredible injuries, and they couldn't get Christian Bolaños to come. So they're having to deal with the team the way they are, and they're still a damn good team. Obviously, I mean, what do you think, Bruce can do to... What guys would you like to see in that starting 11 to make some changes? Because obviously you need to do something, because this lineup, a lot of it didn't work.
I would like to see Jozy back in the lineup, by all means. And yes, Omar Gonzalez got that header, but he did not impress me otherwise. He really didn't. So definitely Jozy in. I would like to give Nagby another shot because I think and I say this all the time, with a little bit of speed, you've got to counter with speed of your own. I would like to see Nagy in a position where he can use that speed because we're going to need it. There's going to be a lot of tinkering, but those would be the main things that I would focus on.
What do you think about maybe 3 midfield with Nagby there, where he can move around a lot more because he doesn't have all that responsibility? You can still have Bradley there. You could have Acosta there. And then, you have your Jozy up front again with like Dempsey and maybe Corona supporting or something.
I would be fine with that, especially Corona supporting.
I feel like with Nagby having less responsibility, he has more room to kind of free flow, do what he does.
Yes, and if Bradley ever gets in trouble, Nagby would be very quick to try to bail him out in the midfield, and I think that would be even more beneficial.
I want to see Biza and Miazga in the center. I understand why you might want to have Omar for the headers like we saw tonight, or that kind of thing, but like you said, neither one of them impressed me.
Exactly. Yeah, you get the one header, but risk reward. And I mean, you really couldn't get a little bit more magic from Miazga? Look what he did in Cleveland.
Right, he got a header too. I think, on the left, you could keep Morrow there, but I feel like you're going to get Villafana again. He's the more dependable guy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Jozy, I could see that change as well. You could have Jozy there, you could keep Lehigh. But yeah, I think what you need to do is have a little bit more fluidity in midfield with not having so much pressure on just the 2 guys protecting the back line. Just have a rotating 3, and that might help the guys a bit more. You can have Acosta and Bradley sit a little bit while Nagby goes. If somebody else feels like they need to go forward, then the other guy stays, or Nagby can kind of switch around to cover someone if he needs to. Or Bradley the same thing. So I like that idea. But I mean, so far you think. So how do you? I don't know that we talked about this so much. That obviously the U.S. were the team that made the most changes. Out of all the other teams, Costa Rica, who knows if they would have made changes because most of them were for injury reasons. Mexico wanted to make changes. They were, the club team said no. And then, you had Canada adding Kyle Larin. So, do you like this rule of, because that's the only tournament that it really happens in where you can just make wholesale changes after you get to another stage. Like, shouldn't you just keep the team that you have?
Yeah, dance with who brought you to the dance. It's cliche, but it works. Now, don't get me wrong, it's great if you have this sort of depth, and I think as certain tournaments expand, you're going to see this come up at some point. I don't know what confederation is really going to follow this example. I don't know what confederation should. But as you get through these next coming years, the next couple World Cup cycles, this is going to be a thing. So I think we need to keep that in the back of our minds. But overall, I mean, I'm going to face it. I like it for this tournament because we need the changes. We need the changes.
And but something I didn't think about when we were talking about those changes was that, like, some of these guys, right, like a Dom Dwyer, Sporting KC already has 2 other guys from their roster on the national team. 2 very important defenders. Like, KC might be like, hello, can we have one of our guys back if you're going to have the other 2, because man, like we're playing games here. We need somebody. We need somebody that can score. Bedoya, he was having his kid. Guzan, I think it was more of a, hey, I need to take the time to get in with Atlanta United, who's Tata Martino already said he's playing on Friday and his first start against Orlando.
Oh, more reason to root for my Lions.
And then,
Put
you
5
know,
on it if you have to.
and then you have, Kenny Saif got hurt before, so Chris Pontius had to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot who else got removed at this point, but I think it was a lot of, hey, MLS is still playing. Next weekend starts the Apertura for Liga MX. It's surprising that some of those guys didn't go, but yeah, just.
Well, if you think about it, for a couple of those teams now, I'm not sure who M3 was relying on, but you just had your Ligia wrap up for the Clausura. You had your Supercopa Querétaro 1. You had Campeón de Campeones, Tigres 1, completing that doubleheader. And you're right, you have Apertura 2017 opening up in a couple of days. MLS, Don, not even deciding to take a break for the entire tournament. So I think for CONCACAF, this rule is necessary until everything...
They don't even get a break for the All-Star game.
No.
Yeah.
And I think once they redo their scheduling to where, okay, MLS shuts down entirely, then that'll open it up to where you'll have better teams and you won't need to make these changes. That's where I would like to see it go, but with tournament expansion, everything on this part of the calendar, I would love to see focusing on bringing better teams at the beginning of the tournament, maybe add a couple onto that 23, 4 injuries or what have you, but this is the best it's going to be.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not a big fan of them making changes or whatever, but I understand why they had to have them. It would take the U.S. getting on the FIFA calendar, whatever, where you're not playing these games,
or vice versa.
They're not going to get on the U.S. calendar. Just stop.
Well, I'm not saying immediately, but I'm saying, come on. As is, we're going to have a 48-team World Cup in just 9 short years. As is, we've already got issues with Qatar. I'm even admitting to the point that's not going to change. At this point, something's got to give. And the fact that FIFA going to the U.S. calendar has been floated before U.S. going to the FIFA calendar, which, let's admit, you talk about FIFA not going to the U.S. calendar, you really think the U.S. is going to flip around? They wouldn't be able to maintain their audience like they would.
We'll see. Once they get more teams and everything, if the league continues to grow, they could. Mm-hmm. But that's another discussion for another day.
Yeah.
U.S. national team advance to play Costa Rica. We'll have to see what changes Bruce makes. Let us know in the comments, WTMnet.com, on YouTube, you can listen on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can let us know what you thought about the game against El Salvador. What about those nasty decisions by the El Salvador defenders to be twisting nipples and biting people? And do you think CONCACAF even does anything about this? We'll have to find out also about that as well. But yeah, just let us know and make sure if this is the first time listening, we do have a show, Soccer to the Max, twice a week. We have a midweek that we do. Usually it's supposed to be Wednesday nights, but because the Gold Cup is on, we're doing it Thursdays right now. So Friday morning on the on-demand, it is there for you. We'll cover the MLS, the 7 MLS games that happen, the other Gold Cup games, and whatever else is going on, the MLS All-Star rosters and everything else. And then, of course, we also cover NWSL as well when Rachel is on. And you've seen us cover these international tournaments and everything else. So, and on Sundays we have our sort of recap show. We discuss what happened in MLS and the NWSL, the news, everything else. So you want to check out both shows if you can. And until that Friday morning show, we will see you later, everybody.
Peace.